Well, hello friends. Welcome to the SerenityOS update for October 2020. Now, this month we are celebrating the second birthday of the SerenityOS project, which is, of course, very, very cool. But before we begin, let me tell you about sponsorship. So, the Serenity operating system and all of my content about it is always going to be free and open source. But if you would like to support my work and maybe one day make it possible for me to do this full time, then there are 3 donation options. So I'm on GitHub sponsors and Patreon for those interested in making a recurring monthly donation. And I'm also on PayPal if you prefer making a one-time donation. And as always, my heartfelt thanks to everybody who's already supported me somehow. It's been absolutely amazing to see the support for this project grow and grow over time. And I am super, super grateful. So thank you. Now, let's have a look at some stuff that's happened in October. So you'll notice immediately here that we have some new system fonts. Now, these are not yet available through the graphical interface. You have to go and edit the code to enable them. But basically, we have a new 12 pixel version of the old system font. And the idea here is just to have more options and also to make it a bit easier to use the system in high resolution context. So that's very nice. And let's look at some random stuff here. So one little thing I did earlier this month was make these toolbar icons pop up a little bit when you hover them. It's something I got this idea when I was using Office XP a while back, and I noticed the icons doing this, and I thought, wow, that's really neat. So I implemented it here. And another thing you'll notice about the icons is we have these disabled icons here. These disabled versions of the icons are now auto-generated based on the enabled icon. And it's a sort of a custom algorithm that tries to approximate this 1990s disabled look. And I think it turned out pretty good. The old implementation was just like grayscale variant of the icon, but now we do sort of this more like quantization or whatever of the colors. And then another thing that's new is that you can now see the cursor in views. So you see here the cursor is on the desktop folder. And of course, if we move it around, the dotted outline represents the cursor. So even if I deselect something, you can still see where the cursor is, which helps you intuitively know what will happen if you press like one of the arrow keys, for example. I've also done a whole bunch of work on keyboard focus this month. So the system is now a lot friendlier to tab-based navigation. So you can tab your way through the toolbar icons. You can tab between all the different widgets and stuff. And I think that's something that's pretty useful. It's not perfect, but we'll keep working on it. So another little thing that I wanted to show is that when you select everything in a text box like this, or when you have a selection in a text box, if you now press left arrow or right arrow with something selected, the cursor will move either to the left edge or the right edge of the selection. It's like this subtle thing, but I think it makes it feel so much better if you select something and then you press right, you end up to the right always. And that was Nico who did that. And thank you very much, Nico, because I think that was a great little thing that removed this cognitive annoyance from the system. And something else that's new in the file manager I can show you is we will now wrap icon view items where if the text doesn't fit. So if you hover over something, we will expand the name, as you can see here. And also if you select something, it will stay expanded so that you can always see the full name of things you've selected. Likewise, if something has the cursor on it, will also show the full variant. So it's a little thing, but I like it. And then Tom did type ahead search. So if I start typing here, Chown, I can find Chown. I think just a lovely feature in general. So thank you, Tom. And probably did something else with File Manager, but I forget what it was right now. So let's look instead at the browser. So one thing that's new in browser this month is image context menus. So you can now right-click on an image and choose copy image, for example, which we can then paste the image into Pixel Paint and play with it. Or we can also download the image and have it in our home directory here. So pretty neat. Nothing super special about that, but it's nice to have. And before we continue in Pixel Paint, let me show you some other browser stuff. So there's been a little bit of work on the web engine, but a lot of work on the JavaScript engine this month. So in the web engine, Luke was doing some stuff for foreign content parsing, and we now have tag namespaces, which is neat. But in the JavaScript world, Linus has imported the test262 parser test. So, wait, what am I pressing? I think I had Control pressed. So we have the test262 parser tests, and we can actually run them with our test.js program. We just have to pass this special option here. So test.js dot, and we can run the test262 parser test suite in our engine. So this has been hugely helpful for driving a ton of work on improving the parser, and Linus has been doing just amazingly well going over these tests and one by one figuring out what we're doing wrong, how do we make it right, and improving our engine. So thank you very much, Linus, for this awesome work. And in addition to this, I've also done a whole bunch of work on optimizations for Lib Js this month. My target was to just improve the runtime of test.js as much as I could. And I think I got it down to about 30% of the original runtime, which is nice. Of course, it's still a fast running program, as you can see here. It doesn't take terribly long, but it's a nice thing to every now and then just spend some time optimizing. And another thing, JS related, is that the JavaScript REPL now has history. So you can see here that it recalls what I typed earlier. This is something that's kind of an obvious feature, but it's super helpful when you are working on something and trying to reuse something you wrote earlier. So that's very cool. And what else did I want to show? I guess that's everything about JavaScript. So we had Pixel Paint open. I wanted to show you that Ben has added a new brush tool here. So let me paint on the background. It's quite nice. Previously we had only the very pixely pen. Now we have more of a smooth brush alternative that we can use. And Ben has also refactored the way we manage tool settings. So tool properties now go in this little box over here, and it's context dependent. So depending on which tool you select, will show different options. So here is the spray tool with pretty high thickness. And if we reduce that, we get a smaller one, and we can also tweak the density, and you get the idea. But I think this is a very nice UI improvement, because previously the only way to edit the settings would be to right click on the tool, but now they have moved over here. Maybe we should get rid of the right click menu actually and only go with the tool properties. Anyway, so that's Pixel Paint. Thank you, Ben, for working on that. And then something that's new this month is that I've done a couple of videos inside Serenity of me working on Serenity. So in doing that, I started using Hack Studio to develop, and that made me find a lot of irritating things about it. So I've done a whole bunch of stability work on Hack Studio lately, and I think it's been going pretty well. And I've also added this open documents view here on the left so that we keep track of things that we've opened, because it was pretty easy to open a bunch of things and then you couldn't really find your way back to things you already opened earlier. Now we keep track of everything that's open here. And some other stuff with Hack Studio is that we now have language servers. So it's not the sort of the common language server protocol, rather it's our own language servers. So Itamar implemented a very simple C++ language server, and Ali implemented a shell script language server. So basically code completion is now implemented, is not working right now for some reason. Okay. Oh, there we are. I guess I was confusing it somehow. So this is implemented in a separate process that keeps all of the code comprehension, code completion logic outside of Hack Studio, and then it just connects to a remote process, and then we can implement language comprehension that way. And I think this is pretty clever. And we're probably going to want to expand on the smarts of these processes, because right now it's just Lexer based, basically. So the C++ code completion is not a parser, it's just lexing. So it's just like giving you token suggestions, but room for improvement. So I'll be continuing to use Hack Studio and videos going forward, because it's been a lot of fun, and I think we'll find more things to improve about it as we go. And here, by the way, you can also see another new font I did this month, a larger fixed width font, so that we could use in high resolution videos as well. Of course, I'm doing this video in 720p because that's the tradition of the monthly update videos, but I think these larger fonts look pretty nice in 1080p as well. And then with the profiler, let me see if I can profile something. Maybe the browser. We'll scroll up and down a little bit. So a new mode here is the top functions mode, which is an idea I stole from Apple's Instruments profiler. So in the top functions mode, it turns every single node in the profile graph into a top level item, and then aggregates everything underneath it, and then it crashes for some reason. Okay, it's not cooperating at all here. Let's see if we can get something from File Manager instead, maybe. Okay, wow, I don't know what's up with that. So that's something I have to debug, I guess. But it's, at least you can see the top level outline of it. The idea is that you're supposed to be able to surface things where you have a top level, or you have a function that is reached through many different call stack paths, and it's actually quite a hot function. It's just that you take all these different paths to get there, and then without this mode, it's hard to discover that. Anyway, for some reason, it falls apart if I try to open these. So, oh, wait, no, not here. Okay. Okay, so now we're friendly. I don't know what is wrong with the others, but I'll be sure to debug that later. So that's something that's pretty cool. And then in the shell, we have brace expansion, so we can do this sort of thing now. Hello. I asked Ali to implement this, and he did it for me, the madman. So thank you, Ali, very much. And Ali has been implementing all sorts of interesting things in the shell language, and it's almost a shame that we're not using it more. We should make use of the shell language, because otherwise I'm never going to learn it. But we do have a growing help document about the shell command language. So if you're interested in how the language is developing, you can go here and check it out. It's pretty well documented. And speaking of Ali, he also added earlier today a new feature here to the spreadsheet. If we open up the spreadsheet help and we look at some function like variance, we can now see that some of the documentation in spreadsheet have these example sheets where they show how you can use a function. That's pretty cool. So basically, the new functionality here is that you can now embed examples in spreadsheet documentation. And also he added, I think, like links between different pages in the docs, although I'm not really seeing any links. I was sure there were links. Oh, there's a link. Reduce, click, yeah. So that's pretty cool. The fonts here look all goofy. I think that's because we're not playing nice with the presence of the slightly larger system font yet in this markdown rendering. That's something that we have to fix. Anyway, so still, that's very cool about Spreadsheet, that you can now link between pages in the docs, and the documentation can also have example sheets. Then let's look at some command line stuff. So one new command this month is unique, which was added by Matthew. So unique is, of course, something that takes a bunch of lines as input and then prints out all of the lines that are unique. So if we make a file that says ABC, ABC, DEF, and then we unique that file, then because this one occurs twice in a row, it's collapsed into a single one. And this is one of those staple classic Unix commands, and now we have it. So that's very cool. And something I worked on this month was the kill command. So the kill command now understands these signal names, and you can send a signal by name to a process, not just by number. So if I wanted to stop the file manager here, I could send him a stop signal, and then he stops responding. And yeah, you can see here that we actually render him as not responding, and then when we feel ready to let him come back, we can continue the process. It's just a little thing, but it's nice, and it works with kill all as well. And just a small thing, but Till added this little animation when you open the solitaire game. So we animate in the cards. I think that looks pretty cool. And I guess that's all the graphical stuff I wanted to show. In the kernel land, Tom has been doing a bunch of work towards SMP. It's not quite ready yet, but it's getting closer and closer to multiprocessing or multi-core support. So that's very exciting. And Itamar is working on dynamic libraries still. It's not quite ready yet either, but it's moving forward and getting closer. So very exciting as well. And if you've been working on Serenity this month, you probably noticed all of the string formatting changes. So Paul has been doing a huge amount of work, really good work on implementing these new string formatters, which are to replace the printf formatters. And it's been going on for more than a month, and it's starting to get really, really stable and really nice to use. So I just wanted to shout that out. And Lenny has been doing a bunch of nice const expr related things, just improving our core classes and adding const expert to support so that we can do more things at compile time and verify more things at compile time, which is really cool. The user space emulator received some interesting changes this month. Ali made it possible to run the whole text mode user space in user space emulator. So we can't run the graphical session yet, but you can now boot your system with system server running in user space emulator, and if you like, you can like emulate all of the user space processes in text mode, which of course is very slow, but pretty cool, and could help us find bugs in the future, which would be very helpful. Anyway, there have been a whole bunch of other things as well that I'm sure I'm forgetting, but this was all the stuff I could think of to show you right now. So thank you very much for stopping by and checking out our progress. It's been 2 years and it's still so much fun, and I'm really glad that I'm able to share it with so many people these days, because it started out, it was just me, and now there are so many of us having fun together. So that's really great. Thank you all for your continued interest in the project, and I'll see you next time. Bye.